So, welcome back to our third presentation this morning here at the Solutions Forum on the Grinding Hub. I want to welcome Mr. Lanner von Lanner Anlagen GmbH, and he is the CEO of the family business Lanner, and it's grown from a small business to a leading company in chip and sludge treatment sector, and he will talk about the grinding sludge today and how to treat it efficiently and ecologically. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome to the presentation, how to treat the grinding sludge. Grinding sludge is always occurring if you have a form shaping process when you're manufacturing parts or tools. So at the end, you have this kind of waste, and the company Lanner is producing systems to treat it, that it's becoming less hazardous, and you can save the costs for the disposal, and then you can regain the coolant, which is always in the mixture in this sludge. I want to start with a word from the former German president, Mr. Richard Weizsäcker, what we could always recall in our minds, because we only have one planet and we should treat it for the next generation always in the best kind of matter, that it is always worth living for our children and their children. With this in our mind, we should avoid such pictures and state of disposal on our company ground. This is not what it should look like in your companies, and this is always the start where we come to your company to get rid of such of this, to treat it and to become more economic friendly, to avoid that coolant is going into the earth, into the soil, and you become a greener company, and in the end of the day it also you can get a lot of money back when you're returning the coolant and dispose the sludge more dry. This is a very actual excerpt from a newspaper in Italy. It shows that the grinding sludge is also containing a high risk of catching fire. So on the one side you have the ecological advantages if you treat it, and on the other side also you can lower the risks of catching fire, damaging the company, or even injuring your staff. So here Dr. Helmut Zieler, the former CEO from Henkel, made a good statement some years ago, because we have to integrate the environmental standards into the daily working processes. Today, more actual, perhaps even when he did this statement. Because if you want to succeed in the market, these standards should be implemented also if you look on the other side onto your customers and your public relations, because no one wants to buy products from your side if you have bad news, or your products will not be that successful on the market if your customer has the feelings that you're not ecologic friendly. So what is the state with your sludge at the moment? You collect it at a tooling machine, at a filtering system. You have to sort it on one side, collecting afterwards the separation, coolant, water-based, non-water-based, the material mixture, is it more steel or aluminum grinding sludge. Then you should treat it meaning separating the liquid from the solid phase. The liquid can be filtered and then reused for the machining processes, and the dried or processed grinding sludge can then be disposed more economically friendly and with less costs. Some words about Lanner company. We're located in the Rhine Valley near the Autobahn A5 in the southwestern of Germany in Baden-Württemberg. This is our company where we are producing all kind of chip and grinding sludge treatment systems. And we're the only worldwide company that is supplying such machines and systems from one hand. We are producing all these kind of machines, from conveying tanks, crushers, centrifuges, screening, and also separation technologies and container loading systems. This is what it looks like when you go into the real world, back again from the 3D modeling. These systems have a very short return of invest because you're increasing the value of the chips or lowering the disposal costs for the sludge. And on the other side, you get a coolant back which can be reused many, many times if you're using oil nearly with an endless recovery and usage. We are producing systems for up to 20 cubic meters per hour, small turnkey ready systems which come for plug and play up to 2 cubic meters, and for the same amount per hour briquetting presses. So where is the sludge coming from? Of course, from the machining process where you're manufacturing your parts or tools. We collect it via a chip cut or a conveyor, or from the central or decentralized filtration system. It can go to the centrifuge where we separate via physical force the liquid from the solid phase. The centrifuge sludge can go directly also into a briquetting press to press it to a solid briquette and squeeze out the containing liquid, and then this can go to the foundry or the scrap dealer. The regained coolant is collected in a tank, going back to a filtration system to filter the particles which are in the regained coolant, depending on your demands on the filtration and on the tooling system, and also reused. So we have 2 cycles coming from the separation. On the one side, regained coolant, and the other side, the solid material. First, the centrifuges, which can be used for treating the grinding sludge. Lanner is producing 3 types of centrifuges, but only 2 of them can be used for the grinding sludge. The first one I want to show you is the ME Batch Centrifuge in detail. It's a very simple system. It can be manually loaded, and if you only have a small quantity, this can be the solution for regaining the coolant from the wet sludge. This is now a small video. We do it. You can start. Perfect. Here, this is made in our company. You put a wet sludge into the drum. You manually close the lid and start the centrifuging cycle. The cycle time can be set up upon the demands. When the cycle time is over, the sludge is nearly containing no liquid anymore. The liquid here collected in a small basket and still here in the housing, so you can see there was a separation. Afterwards, you take the drum out and repeat. If you have higher volumes of sludge, then an automatic system, an automatic centrifuge is the better solution. This will be then the DS lifting bottom centrifuge. The centrifuge here is working continuously, and we have here the material coming from top loading, and the dried material will leave underneath into a cart or a conveyor underneath. The function of this centrifuge is shown here step by step. The wet sludge enters from top into the rotating drum. We can achieve here about 300 to 400 G, meaning 300 to 400 factor of the Earth's gravity. With this force, then the liquid is separate from the solid phase. The sludge is entering the drum, and through the rotation here it is pressed against the wall and forming up ring-shaped. In the lower part of the drum there is a solid ring to catch the impact, and the lifting bottom is pushing this ring upwards onto a slot sieve. Through these slots the liquid will go through and caught inside the oil housing and leaving the centrifuge. When the lifting bottom is returning into the lower position, this ring stays on the sieve, and with the next cycle this ring is pushed upwards onto the sieve further up. So we have here a very long time that the sludge is staying on the sieve, and we can achieve that as much as possible with the centrifugal force. The liquid is separated. When the dried sludge is reaching the top of the drum, it will be thrown outwards against the inner housing, drop down and leave the centrifuge. The cycle time here can be set, but as long as possible, and the thinner this ring is, the better the drying will be at the end. This is now showing a video of the machine in function. The lifting bottom, you can see here in the center, is moving up and down. In this case then pushing the sludge up onto the sieve. New wet sludge was always added manually. This is then underneath the centrifuge. You can see the color has changed, the oil has been separated, and the volume increases a little bit because it's not that dense anymore. This is then the regained coolant. Our experience has shown that sludge can contain up to 60 to 80% coolant in mass. This was regained from a sample of about 40 liters of sludge. Okay, thank you. So, before the centrifuging or the treatment, you have on the one side the very wet sludge. You can see upswimming oil that is not bending in the material. With the centrifuge, here picture showing inside that ring-shaped dried sludge, and underneath in the centrifuge again. So the coolant recovery can be up to 90% of the containing coolant in that sludge. Second systems that can be used, or also in addition to the centrifuging, is a briquetting. This means the sludge will be then compacted, and during this process then the oil or the emulsion is squeezed out and collected and can be filtered and reused. The briquetting press consisting always of an hopper where we are collecting the wet sludge, and then here a hydraulic unit, a pressing cylinder, a pressing chamber, and the complete machine is set up on a complete tub concerning the Water Resource Act to collect dripping liquids and preventing them to get on the ground. The sludge is dosed with a screw into the pre-pressing chamber. The press cylinder here is then compacting in this chamber the solid briquette. In this chamber here, the coolant is collected and with the pump can be then further transported. Again, a video showing a test we did in our company. This is the sludge dosed with the screw in the pressing cylinder, and here the press cylinder is now pressing very slowly the sludge together. We release, press again. This process of the releasing and again pressing can be repeated until you reach the best result. The cylinder here we can set up, sorry, my mistake. The cylinder can press up to 500 bars, meaning we have a very high force on a small surface to get as dense in the end as possible. Okay. Jump over again. Okay. So before the press process, the sludge, this type was centrifuge, so you have a loose and a big volume. And after the pressing, you will have solid briquettes with a much lower volume. And if you remember the newspaper article, these briquettes here are much lower fire catching problem than the loose sludge. So here the coolant recovery rate is also possible up to 90%, and in addition you have a volume reduction. Factor 5 can be normally set up. So, thank you for listening. Keep in mind, recycling is important, and on the other side, also you have a return on invest if you invest in such recycling machines. So you can lower all your costs, you can regain the coolant, you save money, and also our environmental will say a big thank you to you. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you too for this presentation. Very interesting. Are there some questions in the audience? I see not at the moment. Maybe I have a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
You motivated strongly with the ecological and safety reasons in the beginning of your presentation.
Yes.
But how is it with the economical viewpoint, especially maybe smaller companies with not that much grinding sludge? How should they act in your...
Thank you. Good question. So we know that all companies have different volume of sludge. Sometimes you only have 1 to 5 kilograms per day, or even if you're producing tools, you have a very low quantity, but you always have a high quantity of oil. So here, with the calculation that we are helping to do, you can see what is the return of invest that we start. Normally, we say it starts up from the first day that you produce, because the oil is getting more expensive day by day, and on the other side, the disposal costs, they will not lower in the nearby future. So from the first day that you are producing, you should always have one eye on your disposal and, of course, also the purchasing of your coolant. So here we have small solutions like the ME Batch Centrifuge. Depending on if you grow, you always can level up to automatic systems.
So the best way would be to start with the first grinding machine to have also the right treatment for the sludge.
Yes, so for the small centrifuges here you can see you start with 30 to 40,000 euros. Automatic systems, depending on the automation, then you will have much more cost, but the return of invest is always the same. You can say within 3 years the machine invest is completely done. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite you then to our booth, which is not so far away on the other side, where you can discuss further your questions. Thank you again.